Good morning, Real Life. We're so good to see you here on this Father's Day Sunday. Let's stand up and worship. God adopted us. We are His children. He is worthy of our praise. Let's give it to Him now. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hello, my name is Child of the One True King. I've been saved, I've been changed, I have been set free. Amazing grace is the song I sing. Hello, my name is Child of the One True King. Whoa, 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 whoa. I am no longer defined by all the wreckage behind. The one who makes all things new has proven it's true. Just take a look at my life. Hello, my name is Child of the One True King. I've been saved, I've been changed, I have been set free. Amazing grace is the song I sing. Hello, my name is Child of the One True King. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, church. What love the Father has lavished upon us, that we should be called His children. I am a child of the one true King. What love the Father has lavished upon us, that we should be called His children. I am a child of the one true King. What love the Father has lavished upon us, that we should be called His children. Hello, my name is Child of the One True King. I've been saved, I've been changed, I have been set free. Amazing grace is the song I sing. Hello, my name is Child of the One True King. I've been saved, I've been changed, I have been set free. Amazing grace is the song I sing. Hello, my name is Child of the One True King. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I am a child of the one true King. Whoa, whoa. Amen. Give him some praise this morning.
Let's give it up for this all-male band. For us, what a special treat this morning on Father's Day. You may be seated for just a moment. We want to welcome you. We're so glad to see you here at church. Now, whether you're worshiping with us in person or worshiping with us online, either way, we are so glad that you are with us. Here at Real Life, it is our mission to introduce Southern Maryland to a relationship with Jesus Christ. Now, if this is your first time here with us this morning, we will have a special welcome for you. We'd love to encourage you to take a moment to fill out a Connect card that is right in front of you in the pocket of the chair in front of you. Fill that out, and we'd love if you would take that at the end of service back to our Connect Center, and it's there we want to trade that card out for a tumbler filled with chocolates and information about the church. Now, we want to recognize this morning the fathers that are in our lives. First, we want to say, you're awesome, and you are worthy of celebration. Now, we also recognize here at Real Life that there's many styles and many personalities that come with being a dad. There's lessons to be learned from each one of them. So to the hilarious dad, the one that has more than one funny bone in your body, who never seems to take life too seriously. You seem to have a joke for every occasion in life. Somehow you've made us laugh when we didn't make the team. And you made us laugh even when we just got dumped. So we learn from you, and we thank you that you've taught us that the joy of the Lord is always our strength. To the brave dad, the one who would say, hey, life is dangerous, but fear is a choice. You taught us to stand brave and say, you know what, just rub some dirt on it. You taught us to start off in the swimming pool, to jump into the deep end, and you only almost drown, you'll be okay. You taught us to face life head on, knowing that God would always be by our side. To the toolbox dad, if it's broke, you'll find a way to fix it. Now, it doesn't always come out exactly just right, but you taught us that setbacks are never the end of the story. To the patient dad, who worked with us into the wee hours of the morning, working on that school project or fixing that bike or working on that three-pointer. You faithfully worked hard day after day only to check in overtime with your kids at night. So to all of you, along with the faithful dad, the no-nonsense dad, to the coach dad, the geek dad, the who has two thumbs and likes to tell dad jokes, this dad, and to all the 100 other dads that we're failing to mention this morning, we applaud you. We want you to know that we love you and we need you in our lives. And that God has placed you here and has given you this internal impact on your children. And though we know that you'll never get it perfect, we're just so thankful that you're there and you're trying. So here at Real Life, we recognize your timeless importance in the family. And so while we could never really truly repay you, we thought you do at least deserve a payday as you leave service this morning. So happy Father's Day. Now let's stand back up as we enter back into worship.
Don't understand. I can't Father. As I sit here today and I sing out these words, as they become my prayer, and we reflect on your ways and how perfect they are, how good you are, how we can just run into your arms, God. I don't even have appropriate words to thank you. I can't formulate in my mind a word that is deep enough to express the gratitude I have for the way that you parent. You discipline those that you love. You became flesh and dwelt among us. You took on a cross and defeated death on our behalf. You paid a cost that we ought to pay. You created everything, but yet saved us to be made in your image. Why do you love us so well? Worthy are you. Thank you, Father. You are our anchor in the storm. You are our joy in every joyous moment. You hear our cries and you laugh with us. You look upon us and you think, I created that in you. What joy it brings me to think of you, my child. I cannot understand in this moment why a God as good as you looks on me with such favor. Thank you. Praise you. Good are you alone, Abba. In Jesus' precious name, amen. You guys can be seated. Just one more time, I just want to take a moment and just say thank you and happy Father's Day to all the dads in the room. Can we just give it up for the dads one more time? Come on. Yes. And I'm sure your dad is awesome, but you should just know I firmly believe that mine just completely takes the cake, but that is just my opinion. It is incredibly biased. Okay, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for your continued faithfulness in giving. We have all of our regular online options available to you. We also have some super cool boxes in the back of the sanctuary if you'd like to drop your tithes and offering in there. I just have one quick announcement for you guys this morning. If you missed it last week, no big deal. There are a few envelopes left. When you guys first walked in, you probably saw a bulletin board that had some very pastel-y envelopes on it with a dollar amount. That is actually our youth fundraiser. It's going to go to help support our youth to send them to both camp and a mission trip that we're calling ASP. If you feel so led to give to that, feel free to grab an envelope on your way out the door. All you have to do is grab it, drop the dollar amount that's on the envelope in there or more. Nobody's going to judge you. If you put more, you should just know that. So you grab that, then you can bring it back in either this weekend or next weekend and drop it at our Connect Center so we can send teens to both youth and a mission trip. Does that sound good to you guys? Come on. Yes. All right. Let's ready our hearts for the word.
Well, we see you this morning. We see you here. We see you online. We know that this is transition week in so many lives for a lot of you. This was the last week of school. Anybody happy about that? There were more parents clapping than kids, for the record. So we all know how that is. And so you've begun to think about summer, summer, summer. It's right out there in front of you. And we recognize that. And so as we got talking as a staff about the things God's been doing, and now summer is upon us, we said, you know what? We recognize our people are going to have work trips this summer, that they've got family vacations this summer, and so he said we should remind them to take church with them. We said, no, I tell you what, let's just tell them we're going with you, all right? So as you go, we're going with you this summer wherever you go. And the way we're going to do that is not by hiding out in your suitcase. It's this little thing here we're calling Church on the Go. And throughout this summer, beginning next week, once we get into July 4th week, we just, through the week, whenever you see this little emblem come up, this is your church's way of saying wherever you are, we're there with you and we want to remain connected. The reason we did this is because we've observed that God is at work in your life. And God is at work in our lives right now in a very special way coming into this season. And I don't want us to have a mentality that's like, well, you know what? Spring was great and fall will be cool, but now summer will just kind of run around. Wherever you're going this summer, we're going with you because we believe you want to stay connected with your church. And so what's going to happen is through the week, you're just going to have this little emblem will pop up for you. And when you see it, you'll connect. A pastor may have about a 90-second little devotional thought for you that ties to our theme of the week. Sometimes it'll pop up and it's going to be one of our worship leaders. And they're just going to give you maybe a 30-second explanation for why they love this song, and there'll be a link for it. Maybe they'll say, hey, we sang this in church last week, remember it? And then our kids ministry and our teen ministries, they're going to hit you as well every now and then. Now, we're not going to gum up your inbox, but we're just going to kind of give you an opportunity to stay connected with us all summer long. So the best way to make sure you'll get all of that content is to have our app. So if you don't already have our app, it's not hard to get the app. All you got to do is go to the Apple Store or to Google Play. So go on, get the app, and download it. And that way, every time we want to share something with you, staying connected with you this summer, we will. Thanks for joining us online today for worship, and we will be doing this all summer long as well. So this is kind of a transition week, and I want you to know that next week we begin our summer series. And it's called Untold Stories, and it's stories from the Bible, but maybe less known stories from the Bible, and hopefully we'll even get one that you've never even heard before. We'll tell you the story, and we'll make just a single pointed application to our lives that we get from that story. So that starts next week. Of course, you recognize we just came through a pretty heavy series on mind control, and we were covering things from temptation and anger and making good decisions and all of that. So I realize we've come through that. So kind of just coming up for air for a moment, we're going to take kind of a pivot Sunday, just we call a standalone week. And I just want to just kind of share this sermon with you. Now, it's a 1-point sermon. And in fact, we want this to be so low stress for you today that when we get to what the 1 point is, I'm even going to tell you that's the 1 point, okay? So this should be easy for all of us to follow along and to track along with as we go. All right, so here we go. So if Rascal Flatts is right, then life is a highway, all right? And if life is a highway, then that means we are all vehicles of some kind, right, as we live this life. So I guess this morning, just take a minute and have a little fun with me. What type of vehicle are you? Maybe some of you are like a pickup truck because you are just like, you're functional, you're built for power, you love to tackle a difficult task, you're just going after it, you're going to stay with it until it gets completed. You might be one of those people who once you get going on the task, someone would be like, do you know it's 2 o'clock in the morning? You're like, no, I didn't know because I'm almost done and I'm just going to finish. So, that's just the kind of personality you have. You're kind of the get-her-done kind of person. And so maybe you're a pickup truck. Now, some of you are a minivan, all right? You're a minivan because right now it is all about family in your life, right? As far as you're concerned, you know what? Your budget is about kids. Your calendar is about kids. Your planning is about kids. It's just kids, everywhere you go. And when you lay your head down at night, if the kids are happy, you are happy. And it has been a good day. You love thinking about the next family reunion. You got excited a minute ago when I talked about summer family vacation coming up. And you're just a minivan. If you're a minivan, probably you're pretty comfortable with the reality that there's Legos on your floor and Eggos in your toaster. And that's just kind of the way life is rolling for you right now. And so that's who you are. Now, some of you are like, no, Pastor Todd, close. I'm not a minivan. I'm an SUV. It's kind of like the minivan, but I got a little more swagger than that, right? And so you're like, I may end up wearing sweatpants at home with stains somewhere the kids spit up on me, but if I'm going to the grocery store, I'm at least changing into my jeans to do it, put on a decent top. So, it's kind of like that, but, SUV probably more sums up. That's why like, you are so far from what I am, Pastor Todd. I am a sports car. That's what I am, man. I'm just going after in life. I'm loving life and going full speed ahead. No regrets and let's go for it. Leap before you look and all of that. When I arrive at a party, it gets twice as fun as before I arrived at the party. You paint all your palettes in bright colors, and that's just you. You are just sports car. And then others of us are like, well, I have my horns pulled in a little bit too much to be a sports car. I'm a little more laid back. I think I'm a sedan. That's what I am. I'm a sedan. You know, like I'm just a Toyota Camry. I'm just a Honda Accord. I'm a Volkswagen Jetta. I'm a Chevy Malibu. Some of you are like nudging each other right now. And listen, do not be embarrassed over that. We need sedans in this world because the sedans of this world get things done. In fact, the sports cars of this world need to marry the sedans of this world or they just drive off the road, right? So, so sedan, nothing to be embarrassed about, and the world moves forward on those kind of people. And so, we're all, I guess, one of those. Now, I might have missed one. Maybe you're a high-speed motorcycle or a slow-speed moped or something. You can tell me later if I missed yours. You can catch me out in the foyer. But we're all different in that way. But one way that we as vehicles are all exactly the same is if you look at our gear shift going down the road of life, there's only this. There's only this. There's no park. There's no such thing. There's no stop the world. I need to get off for a day. There's no, oh, this is so fun. I just make time stop so that we can stay on this vacation. No, time just keeps on marching, and you don't get to just declare that you're taking a day off from life. It just keeps right on going. And there's certainly no reverse gear, right? You can't go back and redo it. Once the day is done, it's done. When the decisions are made, they're made. And I know we look back at life, we say, man, I wish I could go back and talk to that teacher in high school who I didn't treat very good, and now I see they were really just trying to help me. Or we say, you know what, if I could go back and do it again, I'd probably raise that first kid a little bit differently. I caught on better by the third or the fourth. I wish I could change a few of those decisions that I made when I was parenting. Or some of you go way back and say, I should have listened to my daddy when he told me not to date that boy. And you just look back at these things like, man, if I could just go back and undo it. But you know what? There is no reverse gear in life. In fact, there's not even a low gear. There's no way to slow this life down. It's always going to move forward. You can't step on an accelerator that changes it either. You see, life moves like an atomic clock. It just keeps moving, and we live life. Here's the term for it. We all in this room, there's only one gear. We live life linear, moving forward. Linear means the moments keep passing one moment at a time. I'm in this moment, and now I'm waiting for the next moment to arrive. And since we live life linear, do you know what that means? That means in our life, there's a lot of this, right? Isn't that how life goes? You wake up in a day and everything you thought was going to happen in a day, none of it does, and something completely different takes place. And it's like life just goes, surprise. And life has its surprises, right? Have you ever thought about a good surprise you've had in life, right? You walked in thinking you were going to get in trouble with your boss, but he actually brought you in to give you a raise, and you walked out going, oh, that was awesome, right? You thought you failed the bar exam, but you passed it. Had a big anniversary, and someone surprised you, or a big birthday, and they all took you out to dinner, and there's these wonderful surprises. We had kind of a funny mixed one in our house. When I was growing up, I was one of 6 boys. A lot of you have heard that before. I was 4th out of 6. It kind of peaked right at 4. And Jay, I know you're watching. I mean that. And we 6 boys. And so when my parents got to their 25th anniversary, some of us were still kind of young, but the olders really coordinated and decided they were going to do a surprise 25th anniversary celebration for my parents at our house. And the way they pulled it off was my oldest brother, Dave, and his wife, Cindy, they took Mom and Dad out to dinner. And what they did is they drove 15, 20 minutes away, and then Dave feigned as if he had forgotten his wallet. So they had to circle and drive all the way back. In that 30 to 40 minutes that they were gone, our entire church descended upon our house, brought in the food and the decorations, and all these people were at our house, so that by the time my parents got back home and came in, here was a surprise party in their home. It was really cool. Now, we so successfully kept them in the dark about this party. Now, when I say we, let me be clear. The 3 older brothers were the only ones that knew about it. Us 3 youngers didn't know about it, so this is probably why we succeeded. But so successful were we that they didn't know about this party, that the week of the party, my mom, totally not knowing this was going to happen, had all of her curtains, all of her drapes taken down in the living room, which was the main room where this party happened, and had taken them to the dry cleaner. So on that night, When my parents walked in and got surprised, on my mom's face simultaneously was the joy and the thrill of all these people gathering to celebrate, and the horror that these people are in her house and she's got no drapes. I imagine in her mind she bounced back and forth all night between best night of my life, worst night of my life. Life just has surprises like that, doesn't it? But not all of them are quite that welcomed, are they? Not every surprise in this linear life is a good one. Not everything that will come up next is something we wish had come up next. And the best planners in the room, the people with the highest volume of insurance, cannot keep ourselves from the moments in life that surprise us in an unwelcomed way. And we face heartache and difficulty, a hardship we never saw coming, something that settles into our life that we would never invite in if we had the choice. And suddenly we still keep going with the surprises of life. Because nothing's guaranteed in this life except this guarantee that nothing is guaranteed in this life. And this has always been true. And 3,000 years ago, King David wrote a psalm, Psalm 102. I hope you'll read the entire thing some point today. We're going to just catch part of it. And in Psalm 102, it is obvious that some kind of unwelcome surprise has dropped into King David's life. And this is what he says as he goes through this. Hear my prayer, O Lord. Let my cry for help come to you. Do not hide your face from me when I'm in distress. Turn your ear from me when I call. Answer me quickly. Something heartrending is going on. Something very difficult is happening in David's life. And he says, God, I need you to come through because I don't know what to do. Have you had a moment like that recently? You walked into work thinking everything was fine, only to discover the company was upside down. They were underwater, and they laid you all off, and suddenly your job vanished. You really felt fine. You were surprised when you needed to take that medical test at all, and now the results have come back, and it turns out they weren't good. You were just sitting at dinner with your wife, and you asked her what she wanted for dessert, and she looked at you and said, what I really want from you is a divorce. And pandemics rage, and cars break down, and people die, and houses burn to the ground. And change never stops. And we struggle with it because we're actually hardwired to resist change, particularly scary change. At the very base of our brain sits our amygdala. The amygdala's responsibility is to constantly monitor our circumstances, our situations, our surroundings, and so that it can be aware to protect us in case fight or flight is needed in a moment. If all of a sudden there was just this sudden boom, this loud sound in here, your amygdala would go into action, go, what's happening? What do I need to do? And it functions and it operates as a form of saying, we want to protect ourselves from something suddenly taking us out. But because life is a highway and we live linear, sometimes these things just drop in that we can't change. And when they do, we wind up exhausted or deeply frightened or angry or sad as we try to figure out how to deal with them. Okay? So how do we deal with them? What do we do when these sudden changes take place in our life? Here's what you got to do. I want you to recognize God is the only constant. There's your 1 point for those who've been worried and waiting. God is the only constant. In a change-filled world that rocks everywhere, He is the rock. And I want you to know, our God who is the constant never changes. Listen to me. God does not change. God will not change. In fact, God cannot change. His character and nature, His traits are what we call, in this big theological word, immutable. Say this word with me, immutable. Our God is immutable. He will not change and cannot change. Well, that's good to know because things change so rapidly in our world that we never saw coming. Isn't it true? You were so excited because you became manager at that Blockbuster. They gave you a chance to invest. And I mean, what was safer than Blockbuster? People are always going to watch movies, right? And then this streaming thing came along, right? She was your rock. She was the one you always turned to, but then she became sick. And then she died way too young. And everything flipped upside down. She said she'd always love you, stood at an altar and said it, and it didn't even last 5 years. And our world spins. We'll always be best friends. We'll always have each other, but then the job moved you. And always together now became always apart. And in the world that's rocking, we need a constant. And it's God who is our rock. David, as he's thinking about these things and crying out to God in desperation for everything that's going on in his life, he finally settles in this psalm and he finally realizes, you know what? God's my constant and he is constant indeed. In fact, this is what he says about God. In the beginning, you laid the foundations of the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands. They will perish, but you remain. In fact, they wear out like a garment, and like clothing, you change them. Not only do things change, but you're actually the mighty God who works changes. And they'll be discarded, but, say with me, you remain the same, and your years will never end. Okay. In a life where I don't know what tomorrow might bring, I'm in. God is the constant. So what do I take from that? Lean on him. Lean on him. Recognize that if he's the constant, then you're going to lean into it. Now, immediately somebody say, okay, well, just a second. If I buy in that God is the constant, I need to know one other thing. What's he like? Because if I'm going to lean in on him, no matter what happens, I need to know what his character's like. I need to know what his nature is like. Can I trust him? And this becomes an especially important question because those of you who walked with God for years, those of you who are learning to walk with God, or those of you who have just watched people who've walked with God, know there are times when we ask God for things and we pray with the right intentions, and we have a desire for how things work out, and they don't work out that way. And we're like, wait, I'm putting my trust in a God who doesn't guarantee that he's always going to make things work out for what, in my opinion, is my good. So how do I get a confidence to lean into this God? So you got to go deeper than what he gives, and you got to go to his very nature and his character. So if the results aren't always going to be what we desire, we're still leaning on the one who is our rock, who is our constant. So let me tell you what he's like. And boy, we could spend weeks doing this. So this morning, I'm just going to give you 2 aspects of God's nature, and then I'm going to send you on your way, all right? Here's the first one. God, who is our only constant, is holy. Say that word with me. He's holy. There is no singular word that does a better description of the fullness of God than the word holy. Because holy incorporates into it 2 things. The greatness of God, his power, all of his might, and the goodness of God, which is all of his dependability, all of his trustworthiness. In other words, when we say God is holy, we say, God, you are almighty and you are trustworthy because you are loving, you are righteous, you are wise, you care about me. All these things are true about you and always will be. So whenever we declare that God is holy, it's a wonderful capacity to put his trustworthiness and his power side by side. And that is so important to bank on because, as I've told some of you before, I've been around here for a while, when you read about like the Greek gods of mythology, because you had to take that class to get through high school or whatever, and you read about these mythological gods, they have good days and bad days. They have preferred people and less preferred people. And they could just be as capricious and changeable as imaginable. Our God is not like that. Those made-up gods might be that way, but the real God of the universe is holy. He's holy. And we trust in him. Even when things that are happening we don't understand, even when the actions of God or the actions of our world aren't making sense around us. Because here's what we say about God. He doesn't always do things the same way twice. He has the most interesting methodology. You can have two people pray side by side at an altar, and God will choose to heal one and another continues on in their sickness. You can have two people facing financial hardship, and God will provide one today, another will have to trust for months and months before the provision comes through. It's almost feels whimsical. We have a biblical word for it. We say it's mysterious, right? We say God works in strange and mysterious ways, and it sounds so wonderful when it comes off our lips. In reality, it's not that much fun when you have to deal with it. It's like, God, I don't want you to be mysterious. I want you to be clear. In fact, I want you just to be obedient to me and do what I want. I don't want all this mystery, right? I want to be able to understand it all. But do you really? Because I'm going to tell you this. A God who's small enough for me and my finite little brain to understand everything he's up to and everything about him is not a God who's big enough to run the universe. Come on, are you with me? We need God big enough to recognize his ways are higher than ours, his thoughts are higher than ours, his plans are higher than ours. All of this is higher than ours. In fact, God is so great that if he leaned down today and tried to explain it all to me, I'd be clueless. And so would you. So here, since our God is holy, we do not need to question his might, his capacity, or his intention for us. Because in his holiness is his greatness and his dependability, his reliability. So even when you don't see God working, trust him. Trust he knows what he's doing and that he's working. You know, we were talking a few minutes ago about my parents. My dad was sharing with me an interaction that he and mom have sometimes. Like if they're driving down the road and it's been kind of a cloudy day, and then maybe the clouds start to part a little bit and some sun rays shine through. Then my mom had this expression. She says, well, it looks like the sun is trying to shine. And my dad says, the sun isn't trying to do anything. The sun is shining. Whether you could see it or not, because of the clouds, the sun is shining. And on the cloudiest of days, if you get in an airplane and go up high enough, you'll recognize something. The sun's always shining. And I think sometimes in life, when we don't see things that we were hoping we were seeing, we can't spot the hand of God all over the place. It's almost like, well, I think God's trying to work. I think God's trying to get glory. Listen, I want you to know something. God isn't trying to do anything. Our God is ruling. Our God is reigning. And Jesus said, our God is working. So trust your holy God who's working. He's the constant in your life. Here's the second one. Not only is he holy, but he's faithful. It's such a great word, say it. He is faithful. He will follow through and will do what he says he'll do for us. I wish today that I could give you the gift of age without the curse of aging. I really do. Yeah. Because we live in a culture that's addicted to youth, but there's some beautiful aspects that age brings that only age can bring. But to get there, you have to go through aging, and it stinks. You know, when you start to get older, you lose. You lose memory, you lose hair, you lose height, you lose muscle, you lose a lot of other things that I can't remember anymore. And so this just happens. I was complaining the other day to my wife about these different aches I had over my body. She said, what do you think you got? I said, I think I have AGE. And I just think that's what's going on here right now. And so, but here's the thing. There are some things, no matter how much you love God, you can't get from him in shortcut form. There are some things that only come through time. There are some things that only happen because over time you continue to serve the Lord. And let me say this to you, it might be my favorite sentence of the whole sermon. The longer I live for the Lord, the more I've seen him come through. The more I've seen him come through. The gift of age is the wisdom and the peace of being able to look back and say, wow, look at how he's come through. What a track record God's got. Do you remember Moses, Joshua used to constantly remind the people, as you're thinking about what you might do next relative to God, don't stop remembering what he's done in the past. How wonderful it is when we face things that look so impossible. To say, God, I don't like being in the middle of this right now, but I am going to stop and remember, you took me through something worse 3 years ago. You saw me through something just this bad, or you saw me even through the same thing 10 years ago. And you're going to see me through. And even if today you'd say, what I'm going through right now, Pastor Todd, God's brought me through this, this, and now I've got this. I'm going to tell you, he's been walking you through it. He's been teaching you how to trust him, so that when you face the big surprises in life, the unwelcomed ones, you'll trust him. Sometimes we sing hymns around here. If you ask my parents, not enough, but we sing hymns around here. And here's an old one that you probably love if you sang hymns growing up. Turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will go strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. Notice it didn't say, and the things of earth will disappear. They'll just cease to exist. If you just look at Jesus, he promises to take all the problems out. No, but you know what happens? These get dim as God gets brighter. He just outshines it. And I'm telling you, he is a faithful God, faithful to you through the generations. So whatever is in your week this week, think of all he's brought you through in the past. So let me encourage you as we get close to the end. Keep perspective on your problems. Keep them in the size they deserve. Not only sized relative to God, but also remember this. Some of what you're going through right now seems so big, but a month from now you may look back and go, why did I get so uptight about that? It wasn't as big as I made it. So it might take 5 years of reflection before you're able to do it, but 5 years from now you might say, I thought that was a life changer, but it was just a season. It was just a season. And so keep those things in perspective. Keep your eyes turned upon Jesus so these other things can stay strangely dim. But then I'll say this. Some of you are saying right now, oh no, Pastor Todd, this one that I deal with, this is not a seasonal thing. This one is one that I will know and feel and recognize and experience at some point all the way till the day I die. I can't resurrect that person I loved. I can't undo that abuse that happened to me. That will always be a part of formulating how life is understood to me. Yeah, I get it. I get it. There are some things you may carry all your life until you lay them down at Jesus' feet. And if that is the case for you today, you say, then what do you have for me? Here's what it is. Understand as you walk through life and you take these things all the way to eternity, understand you don't walk alone. And by you don't walk alone, I don't just mean that God is by your side. Look at the very, very end of Psalm 102. It says, the children of your servants will live in your presence. Their descendants will be established before you. Whatever you're facing in this life, as you go through life, would you remember this stuff is generational? That your kids, maybe your grandkids, will walk with you or see how you walk through this thing you face that even maybe is a lifer kind of thing that you are facing. Because someday you will leave this earth and you will be gone. But your children will live on and they will have to face the difficulties of life. And when they do, don't you want them to be able to look back and say, you know what? When mom faced that, when dad faced that, man, it wasn't easy. It was an unwelcome surprise in their life. But you know what? They just trusted the holiness and the faithfulness of God. And they just trusted. And I want to be that way too. You see, never forget, descendants live with us in the good times, but they learn from us in the bad times. And so just like you, I'm riding down the highway of life, and I don't know what's around the next bend, but this I know. God is already there. You may live linear, I may live linear, but God doesn't live linear. He already is in your tomorrow. He is the constant of your life. I want you just to bow your head with me as we close out today. In a moment, the praise team is going to sing a little bit more, but when they do, you don't need to sing along, so you don't need to worry about any of that. This morning, I'd just like to create a moment at the end of this service for you to say, you know what? I surrender that thing to God right now. That unwelcome surprise, the tree that fell across the road of my life right now, the closed exit ramp, the accident right there. I just surrender this to God. Would you name it right now? You don't have to say it out loud, but name it in your mind. Does it have a name? Is it a person? Is it experience? Is it something in the past? Is it some fear, something medical, something financial, whatever it is? Name it. Then this morning, what I'd love for you to do is, first of all, maybe right where you're at, but then also maybe for some of you, you're like me. You love to get into a position of surrender when you're turning something over to God and trusting Him for it. And this morning, we have these altars right here. I would invite you in a minute when the team sings just to get up and to come and say, God, I'm just kneeling before you because I'm surrendering that to you, my future, this next year. Whatever it might be, I'm just coming and humbling myself and saying, God, here I am, and I'm not going to fear. And Lord, you're going to bring me through as you see best. I trust in your holiness and your faithfulness. So whether you're going to do that right there in your seat, or if you want to come right now, you just get up from where you are. As the team sings, would you just surrender to God? If this is for you, don't wait. Come right now.
Run to the Father, fall into grace. I'm done with the hide, no reason to wait. My heart found a surgeon, my soul found a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, run to the Father, fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart found a surgeon, my soul found a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again.
Here at the altar and all around this room today, if there's something you're trusting God with, I would love for you just to symbolize that as I'm going to pray by just lifting a hand up in the air as if you're holding it up to God. Maybe it's a big one and you want to put two hands up. All over this room, if this is for you right now, as I'm going to lead us in prayer, would you just hold that thing up before the Father? Lord, we're running to you today. You see what we're giving to you. You see this circumstance. You see this trouble. You see this problem. You see this fear. We give it to you today, God. We're surrendering to you. We're trusting you. Lord, nothing else is constant in our life. We're hoping some things that we rely on will stick around, but God, we know you are absolutely the constant in our life. So we surrender these things to you today. And here's what we declare, Lord, you're holy. And since you are holy, we know it means that you are all powerful and that you are always going to reflect the goodness of your nature to us. We also know, Lord, that you are faithful. And through the years, we're going to see you continue to be that faithful God to us. And for that, we give you praise and honor today. Lord, something now just begins to swell up inside of our chest of faith and a trust and a dependency that whatever even that we don't see is ahead, we trust you with it. Would you stand with us, church? Sing this out. Sing this out.
I feel this rush deep in my chest. Your mercy is calling.
Yes. Just as I am. He is trustworthy today. Yes. Thank you for being with us today, Real Life. Thank you for joining us online. God bless you. Go in His grace. We'll see you next week for Untold Stories.